Hello there, and welcome to another episode on Not One for Neutrals. This time, we're going to be talking about Leicester City. I'm very, very excited to talk about Leicester City because a few years back, Leicester City were everybody's second team. And since then, it's not quite gone to plan. So I've brought on my mate Locks from Blue Tinted Glasses to talk about all things Leicester City. How you doing, mate?
Good, mate. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Glad to make my debut on the channel, mate.
Absolutely, yes. I always forget that it's a different channel. I always do. But you've been on Sheffield United Way quite a bit. And for those that haven't watched the channel before, I do run a Sheffield United YouTube channel. So I might reference it every now and then. So, first question for you, Locks. How does a team go from winning the Premier League to relegation in less than a decade?
Well, that's the $1 million question, mate. Or £150 million question if you want. I think the Leicester have always been a bit of a roller coaster club, for decades. Always ups and downs. I think we actually hold the record for the most, like promotions and relegations from between the second division and the first division. And obviously, we only had to wait 155 years of our history to win the Premier League, and obviously that was a magical moment, and something that we'll never achieve again. Many clubs will never achieve it. And following that, I think Leicester really struggled to actually capitalise on such a great opportunity. I mean, the 3 years following the title win, we made some really poor signings, some dodgy managerial appointments as well. Obviously, we sacked Ranieri the year after because the players kind of down tools under him. And luckily, we found Brendan Rodgers. Well, I say found. He was well known, of course, but he came into the club and he actually took us back to the next best thing, which was fighting for Champions League football and, of course, winning the FA Cup. But the problem was the same hierarchy, the same director of football and things like that was still in charge. So the same poor decisions were made, and recruitment was really poor. Some of the wages given out to players was really poor, which meant that we were unable to shift on dead wood, and it all kind of culminated in what still one of the worst seasons ever as well, the worst season for me as a Leicester fan, solely because we had a team, in my opinion, that were a top 10 championship club. Yuri Tielemans, Harvey Barnes, James Maddison, Jamie Vardy was still performing at that point. Wilfred Ndidi, all these players getting relegated from the Premier League is just a disaster. What I will say, though, is thrown into all of that history, that 10 years of history, of course, our owner died in the helicopter crash outside the stadium. And he's kind of the one that ran the show. And, it was after his death that we had the good period under Rodgers. Some people think it was maybe a hangover. The negative impact of that took its time to spread across the club. But at this point, mate, I mean, we got relegated. We got promoted again at first attempt with Enzo Maresca. And in that summer, which was such a big summer to try and make yourself a stable Premier League club again, he goes to Chelsea. After promotion, he goes to Chelsea. He then signs Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who was our best player in the promotion campaign. And again, we make dodgy signings. Oliver Skipp, £20 million. So this is the common theme here, right? We spend a lot of money on average players. There are some very good players and good hidden gems thrown in, of course, but too much money spent on average players, and we're still feeling the effects of that now because we're just not able to shift them on because we're paying them too much money. I mean, Harry Winks, for example, in the Championship is on £90,000 a week in the Championship. What do you do? What do you do with him? You can't get rid of him because no one's going to pay him that, and he's going to sit at Leicester on them fat wages. So, financially we're a shambles, and on the pitch we are too.
I resonated a lot with a lot of what you just said then. I think us as Sheffield United fans, we feel a similar way, but I think yours is at a whole new level to ours. Like you've been there and done that, and obviously you're paying the wages because of that. But let's get on to talking about this season because I just wanted to kind of set the scene for a second. But this season, obviously, you got relegated last season. You've started on, well, you're on 17 points from 12 games now. It's probably not what you necessarily wanted at this point after 12 games. How would you sum up Leicester City's season so far?
I would sum it up by saying it was promising. The start to the season was promising, but the wheels have fallen off very quickly. Our last win, we're filming this on the 26th of October. Our last win was the 29th of August. We haven't won since August. We drew 5 games in a row, or 5 games in six. We drew. We've just lost 2 back-to-back games against Hull and Millwall. We look this. We had a shocking season last year. We went through 2 managers, Steve Cooper, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Going into this summer, we appointed Marty Cifuentes, who hadn't achieved really anything substantial in the game, especially in England. Obviously, just mid-table finishes with QPR. In pre-season, though, lack of signings. We've not spent a single penny on transfer fees. We've only made 3 loan signings and 2 free agents. The 2 free agents are goalkeepers who haven't played. The 3 loan signings, 2 of them are very good. Jordan James, who of course used to play for Birmingham, young, lots of potential. He's in on loan, and also Aaron Ramsey, who is on loan from Burnley. Those 2 players there in particular, they have been good, and they've kind of brought the most spark, if you like, this season. But we are really struggling, I think, mentally as a group, because I just think we have a bunch of players that have a really poor mentality. I think you've got a group of players that are filled with mostly players that don't want to play in the Championship, that probably are looking for their next club in real time. We got rid of some deadwood in the summer, but the deadwood we got rid of, it wasn't the worst of the deadwood. It was actually players that would probably start for us now. We got rid of James Justin, for example, to Leeds United. Casey McAteer, I don't think he wouldn't start for us now, but still, he's young, right? He's not you wouldn't really class him as deadwood. He's gone to Ipswich. And we are stuck with, there's a few players in our team right now who got relegated twice with Leicester. I mean, Wout Faes, one of the worst centre-backs in world football.
World football.
Two relegations with Leicester. You would caveat that with, it was a very good promotion campaign, though, 2 years ago with him. Yannick Vestergaard, again, 2 relegations. Luke Thomas, who obviously
It's a little
terrible,
bit too much.
terrible player. He's just been given a 4-year contract, by the way, which has annoyed a lot of fans. He wasn't good enough for you guys. He wasn't good enough for Middlesbrough. He was on loan at Middlesbrough and he wasn't good enough. And it's the same now. He got dragged off in the last game against Millwall. And then you've got, a couple other players who are just overpaid. You've got Harry, like I've just said Harry Winks, £90,000 a week. You've got Buba Samari, who's been at the club now for 4 years, never really performed. Patson Daka, who's on apparently 70 grand a week, never performed. He's got 1 goal in 39 games for Leicester. So we just have a poor squad mentally. I think if you look on paper, and we know football isn't played on paper, but if you looked on paper, man for man, you would say, okay, this Leicester squad, they've got to be getting promoted. But the attitude stinks, and to be honest with you, with these poor results, I don't think it'll be long before they just down tools for the manager, because it's always the manager that gets the sack at the end of it, right? That you can't sack 11 players, but you sack the manager, and that's where I think we're heading slowly. I like the guy. I think Cifuentes is a good fit for Leicester culturally, but at the minute he's struggling to get us firing. And we don't have a goal scorer either. I mean, we've gone from Jamie Vardy to Jordan Ayew. Jordan Ayew is our number 9, and he scored 1 goal this season.
Yeah. It's the thing is, there's a lot of negativity I'm hearing from you here, and I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into this negativity and talk about the fact that you breached profit and sustainability rules back in 2023-24. Not you personally, Leicester City. I need to stress that, and potentially facing a points deduction of maybe I've heard in the realms of nine points. Could you explain why this happened, and not a whistle stop tour, shall we say? Because I know that there's probably a lot of intricacies.
Yeah. Okay. So I should probably start even a little bit further back with the year we were relegated first, the shock relegation when Leicester went down. That was the first time we breached, and the reason I use quotation marks there is because that's the one that we got off on a technicality, on a loophole. And this is where, so for that one, Nick, I have sympathy for the club, and the reason for that is because in the previous couple of years, we were fighting for Champions League. We were signing players and paying them, relatively big wages, but we'd finished 5th 2 years in a row. So, and we had the 7th highest paid squad, I believe it was. So that's we were relative, right? We were spending relative to where we were finishing in the league. The problem though is you have one car crash season like we did. We got relegated. We then, because of that, our revenue was our wages to revenue were 110%. It was the first time ever a Premier League club had that, and so that I had sympathy for that one. We got away on a technicality with that one because we argued basically that, well, at the end of the season when the accounting period ended, we'd already transferred our shares to the EFL. So Premier League, you can't punish us because we're now a Championship club. And then we argued the Championship, you can't punish us because we played the football in the Premier League. So it was dodgy, it was sketchy, and that's why Leicester are no longer everybody's second favourite team, I think, because we kind of we did exploit that. Moving on though to the second breach, and this one you're talking about, the one that we are definitely going to be found guilty of. I have no sympathy for the club because what we did was we brought in Enzo Maresca, which was great. That was minimal compensation to Man City because he was just an assistant manager. However, as I've just mentioned, we then signed Harry Winks for £9 million and gave him 90 grand a week. We signed Conor Cody for £8 million and gave him 70 grand a week. We then signed Mads Hermansson, Steffi Mavididi, Abdul Fatawu, a couple others. Callum Doyle was on loan, but yeah, a couple other signings in there as well. We spent a lot of money. Now, we weren't in a net loss because we'd sold big as well. However, we spent enough to breach again, and the wages, of course, contributed to that. So I don't have any sympathy for the club because they went and did that. And we got promoted at first attempt, and technically, Nick, we cheated. We cheated because we breached PSR and we got promoted. We went up cheating. And that is the season we are now getting punished for. Leicester City do like to kick the can down the road with PSR, and we appeal things and do all of that. But as far as I'm aware, and from what I've heard from reputable journalists and stuff like this, I think on this occasion we've actually put our hands up and said, look, we're guilty. We'll work with you. The problem, though, is that we're now into nearly November and we still don't know what our punishment is. There is an independent hearing, so there is still a very small chance, I suppose, we get off on it, or maybe a limited deduction. But John Percy from The Telegraph has previously reported, and Rob Dorset from Sky, that Leicester are probably going to receive a points deduction between 9 and 12 points, which is, you could call significant. I've seen fans from other Championship clubs say it's not enough. I've seen Leeds fans, of course, who never got promoted that season, to saying that they should sue us and claim damages and things like that. But yeah, the problem is here that we ourselves, but also the EFL, the Championship table right now is not the true table, because Leicester are getting deducted points. How are we into November nearly without a hearing on this and without an answer? It's pathetic. So yeah, we're worried. We're worried, Nick, because you look at the Championship table and where Leicester are. You knock 9 points off that, we are in the relegation zone, which is a worry.
The reason why I wanted to bring that up is not because I want to kind of drag you over hot coals. I know it's nothing to do with you, but obviously when it's your club, you feel responsible. But the reason why I brought it up is obviously because we want to talk about this season, how that's going to affect your season, because it could do in a big way, really. Last season, we got deducted 2 points at the start of the season, and we were gutted about that, and we were thinking that could be the difference between, going up or not going up. It didn't end up being that, but 9 or 12 points is colossal in the sort of promotion realms, especially how well Middlesbrough and certainly Coventry have started. So, bearing all that in mind, you have started the best out of all the relegated sides, and you sit in 10th place, which, first of all, is absolutely wild. But I want to know, do you think you've started well enough, taking into account what the deduction could be?
No, we've not started well enough. I think, as I said, it was a promising start, and I think I had a lot of faith that we would just get better and improve over time. But if anything, over the last 5 games, we've got worse. We did get a win against Swansea in that time, but they were absolutely awful, to be honest with you. We're struggling right now. We're in a tough period, and what doesn't help with Leicester City, Nick. It's like a snowball effect because our fan base is so toxic, and our fan base is so polarizing and so divisive that two back-to-back loss like we've just had. Suddenly, we've gone. So we played Portsmouth 3 games ago. We drew 1-1. And I put out a poll on our page saying Marty in, Marty out. I just wanted to gauge the reaction. And it was 81% Marty in. So I was like, okay, cool. 2 games later, it's now 50. Yeah. It's still in, but it's like 52%. It's 52. So it's gone from 81 to 52 in 2 games. So that shows how it's swinging. And, in the ground, the King Power Stadium atmosphere has been truly horrific since COVID. We were great prior, during all the glory years, if you like, the Premier League, win and the following years. But for the last 4 or 5 years, it's been really, really poor. And we're just a fractured fan base. And as I said, it's a snowball effect with us. And no, I just can't see how we turn this around. I know it sounds crazy, and this season I've been so positive, but I still fancy us to get playoffs, and I would say that includes a deduction as well. That's pushing it. I've seen a lot of fans say otherwise, but yeah, the start to this season hasn't been good enough. It makes you feel a little bit better seeing how Southampton and Ipswich have started, and also I suppose yourselves, Sheffield United. Not the best of starts. Now you got wild about those, so I've got I'm looking over my shoulder a little bit. However, I still have faith that we can come away at the end of the season with promotion. It's going to be very difficult, though. It will be because of the last 4 or 5 weeks and the number of points dropped. But if we can kind of get a little bit of form together, the team is more than good enough to go on a 5-6 game winning streak, and anything can happen then. But the EFL could knock on your door and say they could surprise you. They could go heavier than 12 points. We just don't know at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't really think you need to worry too much about what's happened so far, because I know that Coventry have started brilliantly. Middlesbrough just trailing them. I don't think those 2 sides will be a Burnley and a Leeds from last season. They're not achieving 100 points, in my opinion.
I agree with you on Borough. But Coventry just look incredible.
They do. So let's see. Let's stick a pin in that for now and see what happens with them, because I've seen a lot of Coventry sides, fail to get there in the past. But this is the best they've started. Let's see how that goes. But you touched on talking about Cifuentes earlier on. You've answered most of my questions, but I just want to throw this one at you. Do you still have faith in the manager, you Locks?
Yes, yeah, I do. A lot of the criticism at the minute is about some of the players that he continues to pick. Luke Thomas, one of them. He continues to play Luke Thomas, and a lot of people are saying, well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. But I would then argue that about sacking him. We've been through. He is our fourth manager in just over 12 months, and I don't think sacking him would change anything, because I just think the club is trying to recover, and we've got like 7 first-team players out of contract at the end of the year. I think you need to give Marty Cifuentes next summer, because he's going to lose a lot of players next summer. That is his opportunity to really get his hands on the squad. We didn't spend a single penny this summer, so I think next summer the club will spend, no matter what league we're in. And I think that's the summer where you can fully judge Marti Cifuentes. So for the time being, yes, I do have faith. If we lost the next 5 games, Nick, and then we're given a deduction and suddenly you're in the relegation zone, obviously you panic and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
we need a bounce. We need a bounce. We need to, bounce back here. And when you need a bounce, we know the easiest thing really is to sack your manager and replace him. And that will probably happen. But I have faith that he will turn it around, and I have faith that just that the two players in particular, Jordan James and Aaron Ramsey, if they are Marti Cifuentes signings, if he has asked for them two players, it shows me that he's got a good eye for a player, whereas Steve Cooper signed Oliver Skip. So there you go.
Fantastic. We've also touched on this a little bit already, but you cleared the decks in the summer. But how strong do you think this squad is right now for a 46-game season?
Oh man.
You've
At the
already
start
been
of this,
you've already been confident about it. You say it's a really, really good side on paper.
on paper.
Wait, is football not played on paper?
Apparently not. I technically, I think this is a top 2 squad. I think it's probably second. Okay, on paper. Mentally, it's a bottom half championship squad. Like they just, they can see the goal, their heads drop, and they're just gone. They're gone. You can see it on their faces, on the body language. But yes, if we're talking on paper, you go through the squads man to man. You look at some of the players in the team. For me, it's, again, I'll say it, the second best squad in the championship. Maybe Ipswich are first, but look at them again, right? Look at how they're doing. So, but if I'm taking into account, the problems mentally, I would knock it down a bit, maybe fifth or sixth. Really, I think it's that dramatic. It's got that much of effect on the players mentally. That's how far I'd knock them down just for that. Yeah.
We've obviously spoken about your transfer dealings and stuff like that in the past, but are you able to strengthen in January? Do you think this is the team for the rest of the season?
I think we will be able to, and the what I'm basing that off. So we spent, again, I just, as I said, we spent £0 on transfer fees in the summer. There's a couple of things that have come out in Marti Cifuentes' press conferences where he's made comments like, well, we were looking at other players to buy, but we decided that the youth product, because we've got really good youth players coming through at the moment. We've got probably 3 or 4 really strong youth players. I think Cifuentes basically said that those are probably better options than spending money on new players coming in. I think he will change that approach in January, because I think this squad is the first 11 is desperate for just fresh blood, fresh energy. I think we need some we need a hard man, Nick. Like we are so soft. We are so soft. I mean, we've got Hamza Chowdhury. He can be a bit of a nut job at times, but he's not playing, right? He's not playing because he's just not very good, I'm afraid to say. He
leave him alone. Leave him alone.
He doesn't get in at right back, and he doesn't get in midfield, so he's a bench warmer at the moment. And he's one of the vice captains, so he's got that physicality, he's got that energy and the aggression, but he doesn't play. So I think we need a player that's able to come in, bring those aspects of the game, but also is technically good enough to start. I don't know who that could be, don't know how much that person would cost, but I think we're undoubtedly going to spend this January, because if we don't spend a single penny in January, I struggle to see how we get into the playoffs, to be honest with you. I think we need 2 players. I would say a striker, for sure. And I would say we need a new left back, because Luke Thomas is absolutely pony. He's awful. He's awful.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that would have been a question later on. So we've covered off where you think you need strengthening. But I wrote a little segue going into this next question, and I don't want to say it now because it sounds like, because from what you've said, the 5 draws in a row wasn't very good. But I was trying to be positive and saying 8 games unbeaten, obviously before the 2 defeats. And then we're catching you at a poor time, because obviously you've just lost 2 games in a row. And I know how that feels. We lost a lot in a row. But what Leicester City players have impressed you this season so far?
Jordan James and Aaron Ramsey, as I've said a
Yeah.
few times already, two loan signings. Jordan James has an option to buy for £5 million. You've got to action. I mean, you're not getting a 21-year-old, fully fledged international at this point for Wales, with plenty of experience already at a young age in the Championship. And the energy and technical ability he brings. You're not getting a player like that anywhere else for £5 million. So you have to buy him for that price. Aaron Ramsey is going to be a difficult one. He's just got a hamstring injury, so God knows how long he's going to be out for. He hasn't got an option to buy, so God knows what's going to happen there. But other than them two loan signings, I would say in the opening few games, Abdul Fatawu, he was on it. He was scoring, a couple goals, getting a couple of assists. He's kind of dropped off a little bit, but the whole squad have. Other than that, mate, I'm going to go with Yannick Vestergaard. I've already referred to him as Deadwood, and, Leicester fans, I think most Leicester fans would be happy to see the back of him. But for me, he has been our best defender this season. He gets caught out a lot for his pace, of course, which is to be expected. But on the ball, I mean, I still don't think there's a better passer of the ball, passer of the ball in the Championship. I think he's top class at this level for that. So they're the three I would say, mate. We also have a couple others that have been fairly good, but them three I think have been our best players this season.
Okay, you've poked me here, and I need to ask this question as a Sheffield United fan. Harry Souttar, how far is he away from being fully fit? And please say that we can have him when he's fully fit.
I think he's about. I think it's end of November, start of December. That he's due back. As you know, it was a nasty injury. I don't know if he starts for Leicester when he comes back. I mean, he won't straight away, of course, because he'll need to be, slowly brought back in and build the fitness up. I think the club could cash in in January. I think if the club want to raise some funds in January to then maybe go and spend, I think Souttar will be the first one they probably look at. Do you think Blades would take him back then? You think Wilder would want him?
Well, Wilder was the manager last season when Harry Souttar was so good for us in the Championship. I suppose it depends on, how he comes back from his injury, because I've had that very same injury myself playing football. Different levels, obviously. I'm not quite at Championship level, more like five-a-side. But I know how difficult it is and how horrible that injury is. So if he comes back and he's the same player as last season, absolutely, we would pay anything to have him back because he was so good. We've got some good experience there in Ben Mee, McGuinness and Tanganga. But, I would never sniff at Harry Souttar coming back because, it was so colossal for us last season. And I think if he never got injured, we'd have been right up there with Leeds and Burnley right until the end. And could have had three teams on 100 points right at the back end of that season. But yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And I'd like to see him back, but this could have ruined his career.
Well, it's a shame because he's had his career at Leicester has just been. I mean, he came in the January window. We got him from Stoke. Rodgers threw him straight into the 11, and to be fair, to begin with, he was good. He was good, but him and Wout Fass. I mean, you can't you can't expect anything for a Premier League defence. Wout Fass and Harry Souttar next to each other. You're not gonna keep clean sheets. When we were relegated, of course, Enzo Maresca came in, and he is not an Enzo Maresca centre back, right, at all. And so then he was frozen out basically at that point. And then last season again, he went on loan to you guys, and as you said, he had a good time, but the injury killed him. So yeah, it will be interesting to see if Marty Cifuentes does look to use him at all. I would be surprised if he does. I just think Marty would probably favour Caleb Okoli, because you've got Wout Fass and Vestergaard, but then you've got Caleb Okoli, who's a lot quicker, basically, a lot quicker and more agile, if you like. Ben Nelson, again, who's one of our youth products. who we're going to need to use a lot of, and so I think it's going to be difficult for Souttar to get back in. So yeah, if you want him in January, what we saying, 6 million? Do you want him 6, 7 million? You can have him for
Not
that.
after that injury. No, I'm thinking more like 2.5 million, something like that.
Nah, yeah,
I love how we're
expensive
doing
bench
the
warmer.
negotiations.
Yeah, we'll keep him there. But no, I hear what you're saying. It could well be that, but Leicester very rarely, other than Connor Cody this season, Leicester like to hold out for bigger money for a good deal. So I think it would probably take 5 million plus to get him at Blades. But if Wilder wants him and you guys are willing to pay up, I'm sure you'll get him.
I wonder if it's we go in there asking for him for the rest of the season and seeing how that injury is, because if he has a really good end to the season, then we might end up putting our hand in our pocket and paying the money for him, because he's still youngish. He's not in the twilight of his career, so we'll have to wait and see. But let's get back on talking about Leicester City. What is your moment of the season so far? I know it's only in its infancy this season, but you must have got a couple of little bits of quality play, or a great goal, or a great comeback, or something.
My moment of the season. This is gonna sound so depressing because it's for what it is, but my moment of the season, I think, is Jeremy Monga. He is our 16-year-old wonder kid. He made his debut for Leicester last season in the Premier League at 15, second youngest player ever to play in the Premier League behind Ethan Nwaneri. He's still here. I mean, he was being touted to Real Madrid and PSG in the summer because they could get him on the cheap. Like the youth contracts and stuff like that. It's all a bit messy, but we managed to keep him for another year at the minimum. We, as fans, said we've got to give him game time in the Championship. We've got to let him develop and give him that time. Marti Cifuentes has done that, and against Preston, we lost the game, by the way. This is my moment of the season. We lost the game, but Jeremy Monga scored his first goal in professional football, and it was a great moment because for over a year now, I think when he was 14, Leicester fans first said, this guy is rated higher than Dewsbury Hall, Harvey Barnes, Ben Chilwell, all of the Gary Lineker, Emil Heskey. This guy is rated as the best player to ever come through at Leicester, and I stand by that. I think he will be. I think he'll play for Real Madrid. I think he'll play for Real Madrid one day, genuinely. Mate, this guy is a joke. He is a joke of a player. He just makes he makes these professional grown men look like 12-year-olds in the park. What he does to a lot of them. He needs to improve the final product. I think the end product of his game a little bit. But on the ball, he's just different gravy, and he's being managed. He's not playing every minute. He's sharing the minutes with other players. But my moment of this season was seeing him score his first goal. And I think a lot of Leicester fans would actually agree with you. Would agree with me, to be honest, on that one.
Wow, that's incredible. So that's one to watch for the future. Jeremy Monga, guys.
Different class.
Get that in your diary. Make sure you don't forget him. And finally, final question of the video. You've got to stick your neck out here, mate. Where do you think you'll finish come May?
Am I taking into account the points deduction?
Let's have one of each, shall we?
Without the deduction, third.
Yeah.
With the deduction, I would have said sixth this time last year. This time last week, but I'm going to go seventh now. I'm going to drop us down.
I knew it would be between sixth and seventh when you were thinking then. But it's a big jump between sixth and seventh, obviously. And if you manage to find your way into that sixth position, then you've got a very, very good chance of going up. Lots of teams find that. So, really, really good to speak to you today, Locks. I've learned a lot about Leicester, and hopefully people in the watching this video have too, especially Jeremy Monga. I am going to be watching his career like a hawk.
Mate, I promise you. Wait until we play you. He's crazy. He's crazy.
I wish you'd not said that now, because this is going to get clipped up. surely.
I've already been clipped up a lot, mate, over Monga. So people are waiting to say you were wrong, but you're gonna be waiting 10 years for that. I promise you, he's gonna be the next big thing, man. Promise.
Amazing. Love to hear that. Right. Thank you very much for joining me today, mate. And let's see what the season holds.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate. Much appreciated. Good to see you.